to Bali and Thailand. If you actually place the practical reality in front of a girl and be like, you have this risk where you will go and potentially get blown up by artilleries or lose your legs or something like this.
They don't know what artillery is.
Yeah.
You
could get blown to smithereens.
But I
guarantee you would give up your vote in a second if it meant that you had to do that.
I don't think anybody should have to do with the draft. We don't have the draft in this country for a reason. Because
we do have a
well,
draft.
it's paused. I know there's been a...
Men have to register in this country.
It's paused because they don't have to be drafted immediately. There is no current They auto-sign up.
There's no draft. There hasn't been a draft.
If there was a war tomorrow and the U.S. had to go and fight a hot war, you would need military.
No, there was no draft. Like when we had a conflict in Iraq, we did not have a draft.
You didn't need to.
We didn't need to have a draft because there was enough people who...
You were fighting like sheep herders. You didn't need to.
We also did not do the draft. So it's just what I'm saying.
And it's in place if needed. It's not like, it's not jury duty where it's like, oh, this guy needs to go.
There is enough men and women who volunteer to put their life on the line that we don't need to utilize a draft. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You have to sign up for the draft when you are a man and you turn of age.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's consequences if you don't. It's technically felony, $250,000 fine. You're barred from certain federal jobs, federal programs. You can't get student aid. There's a whole bunch of ramifications.
I have a question for you real quick.
Go for it.
Some men can't be able to get drafted. I don't know the exact, if they lessen what the requirements are if it comes to a draft. I'm not sure about that. But I know that there are certain things that, if you're on medication, you follow, like, I have celiac, so I can't eat gluten. I couldn't go to war even if I wanted to because of that. That's a thing. You can look it up.
Really?
Yeah.
People with celiac disease are barred from...
There's a lot of gluten at war, bro. What the hell?
Okay.
Look it up. If you have a certain food intolerance...
There are certain.
Why don't you guys let Paula answer that question?
Yes, there are certain things that prohibit you if you have like heart disease, if you have stuff that would affect like your physical and actual like well-being and could cause the death of somebody else because you have a heart attack or have diabetes, stuff like that. Yes, there are medical exceptions to it, but other than medical exceptions,
I did look it up. A diagnosis of celiac or food allergies is medically disqualifying largely because the military does not provide gluten-free or allergen-safe MREs.
So that's what I'm saying. That's exactly
there are medical exceptions.
Yes, some people can be medically disqualified from.
Well, you say that like it's a blown off, but you were wrong. Number one. Number two, the question that I had was, do you think men that don't qualify, if they have celiac or they have certain heart things,
if you're medically disqualified, you're not going to be drafted.
That's what I'm saying. So are they...
able-bodied women are not subject at all.
So do the men who are disqualified from being drafted, can they vote?
That's what I'm asked. That was the question. That's a good question.
I would say that if you're a celiac and you don't want to be drafted, then you shouldn't vote.
Well, okay. Well, it's not a joke. I can't eat gluten and I can end up in the hospital. It eats my stomach lining. Every 2 years I have to get a biopsy and a tube down my throat.
I would accept that.
But that's a normal thing. Some people can't. Some people have it so severe where they can't even use the same pan. I mean, it's not like just a blown over joke. Like if you'll starve. If the MREs, it's what it's called. They I assume have gluten in them, right?
But the military
does,
can.
It's a severe
these
thing.
are the current standards. We're not really involved in like a massive mobilization. So the military could always we really need people. We're going to roll this back, and perhaps we don't send them to the front line where they need to be consuming MREs, but they could stay stateside and do some form of military service.
Administrative stuff, whatever.
Yeah, the military needs pencil pushers, paper pushers.
So. Look what they're doing. The average age of service at the moment in Ukraine is like 45. They're ripping people off the streets and drafting them left, right, and center. So
here's the deal. I think that women do give service during times of war, and if you want to win wars, you're not going to put women on the front lines anyway.
No, put them on the front line.
You're going to put
soften up the enemy a little bit.
We're going to be washing the cups. We're going to be washing the clothes. We're going to be doing the
the same shit you were doing before.
Yeah, exactly. So if that means that's what I'm going to do when I get drafted, Okay. If I'm serving my country, okay.
But you can still get blown
I don't
up.
have the. Okay, but I'm willing.
It's a support role.
I love
It's
this
not-
country. It's a support role, and I'd be okay to do it.
So, yeah,
Anyways, let's get back to dating. I'll read this, or actually, I'll have you read this. Go ahead.
Ukraine is an example of why women should not vote. They elected a politician that are terrible at managing the economy, weakening the country so much it became an easy target. The war starts and hundreds of thousands of men are dead, and women are simply left in the country.
Vadim, thank you for the $100 soup chat, man. Really appreciate it. Actually, there's a really good. I'll just say it. So Jake already kind of brought this up, but we've shown this graphic before where you'll see like people who are in other countries will see Ukrainian women on dating apps in these other countries. They fled Ukraine. And they're on Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, they're out at the club partying, whatever. Meanwhile, their male counterparts, their male peers, are like dead in some ditch in like eastern Ukraine. So it's like there's such a massive contrast there. That's kind of interesting to point out. Thank you for the super chat, though. Appreciate it, man. Let's get back to something dating related. Let's get through the notes here. Let's see. Where were we? Crystalline?
It's
crystalline?
crystalline. He's call me Chris.
Crystalline.
Crystalline. Definitely not a communist.
You said, I
Anyway,
think that the show does a
capitalist.
relatively good job of pointing out the absurdities in dating when it comes to women, but not so much on the men who are also capable of such fuckery. It gives the impression that all the issues people are having in dating is 100% on the women, which is patently not true. We kind of dived into that a little bit early on in the conversation.
But I have something else that I want to bring up
Sure.
too,
What's
and
up?
it's another layer to it. Gen Z is averaging at 2 IQ points lower than the rest of us. They are addicted to
TikTok.
their devices. They are not meeting reading and math scores. They have terrible communication skills. Teachers are quitting because the kids are so horrible. And I think about less intelligent, poor reading comprehension skills, poor critical thinking skills, and all they have is the internet to teach them. They were born on it. It's been their whole lives. And when you're talking about that level of intellectual vulnerability, I shudder to think like some of the things that are being promoted, not necessarily this show, but I'm saying in general, some of the extreme content on both sides, like, you know, get a guy for all his money, or, you know, sleep with 1,000 girls before you marry. Like, these are all bad, this is bad advice, and we follow those things to their logical end, then we're doomed, we're in trouble. I just think that as content creators, we have kind of a responsibility. These kids are, the oldest cohort is 14. These are the people who were born 2010 and after. And in 4 years, they're going to be voting age. You know, they have these issues. Do we really want the relationship advice just in general?
No
the
one
things that they're
disagrees with you.
saying? And I just think that we just need to be
fucked.
more responsible. I think there's a lot of people who disagree.
Are you talking specifically about this podcast or about...
No, I specifically said,
Okay.
I think that's why I'm here, because this podcast is good. I said it leans a little bit, but I've seen extreme. And I think that it sows discontent. You are dealing with very vulnerable kids, and you're putting all of this nonsense into them. You're not teaching them how to be in a relationship.
Who is putting...
I don't want to say, but it's not you, okay?
Are you talking about the red pill?
Red pill content, but also sort of exploit men monetarily content, like men are trash. Like, there was a woman here last week, and you were going through her Twitter feed, and it was just one thing after the other about men. This like, she's so stupid. This, like, that is, it's not unnecessary. I think it's just not going to end well if we don't.